Morning, my celestial cherubs, how the devil are we? So I've been getting lots of great feedback, positive and negative, and I do listen to what you'll have to say, so please keep it coming. I'll probably argue with you because I can't help myself, but I do listen. One such bit has been about giving the TLDR rundown in the first 30 seconds, which I would, but for the fact I don't know what I am going to say until I say it, this gets laid down as I go. Though I can tell today I will discuss T5 text encoder improvements, Skyreels and Phantom models for 121 frames and why we need them, and storyboard management and my AIMMS software, but we'll save that more for a later video. So let's get started. Actually, I will post the T5 encoder stuff to its own video short later, so I'll mention it only as it gets used. So let's begin at the beginning with the plan. What you see here is my AIMMS software, which is currently version 1 of a storyboard shot management software. Yes, I coded it myself. No, it isn't yet available, but yes, I intend to make it available as freeware when I finish testing it, so you will be the first to hear. I will do a future video on the reasons for shot management and how I apply it, correctly or otherwise, but for this video I want to talk about Skyreels Phantom and why we probably have to use them. Now, this may change in 2 days' time because 1.2.5 might be coming out. Okay. But enough of that, we must continue on, assume nothing. So, why do we need 121 frames? Let's start there. 1.2a and 1.2.2 models are based on 81 frames of 16 frames per second. Yeah. You can change that, but if you do, you get slow motion. In fact, if any of you saw my short narrated noir film Footprints in Eternity, you will know that slow motion is what one tends towards. So, to mitigate that issue, we look to Phantom or Skyreels, at least I am, but therein also lies some problems. Firstly, 121 frames is taxing on the low VRAM guys, and I am a low VRAM guy. So what to do? Well, that is the subject of this video. So looking at my storyboard management system, and you can see the first shot up there on its lonesome, that is because I ended up extending it to a 20-second buttery smooth clip, and that was the subject of the last video. Now we move on to the next clips, and after I did what I did, and what will be the subject of today's video, my storyboard now looks like this for the next section of shots. So quickly taking you through each of those, and I honestly didn't have to do them at 121 frames because you barely notice if there was slow motion in this case, but it allowed me to test my plan for this project. So first is a crow, and it's just sat there. Then next shot is the crow taking flight, and I need that to somehow blend into the next shot, which is sweeping over pine tree forest. And this is where it gets tricky because I need a few shots of this pine tree forest that we fly over. Why? Because in my script from the stage play The Highwayman, there is about 1 minute of narration opening the story, and this was how I planned to spend that time. And from there, go to more pine forest flyover, and then finally down to the 17th century village, where the crow will land before taking off again, but that's as far as I got so far. So first, how did I do these and why? Well, first let's talk about the Skyreels FFLF first frame, last frame workflow you see here. I realised at this point just how complicated things got to get to this point, but I won't bother you with that, and I need to try to keep it focused. But a few things we need to talk about with this workflow. Firstly, it has the new T5 text encoder setup in it. And that, as I said, I will have to save for its own short video, and I promise I will do that promptly. Suffice to say, I will be using it from now on. You can see that here. The next thing to mention is that I ran everything to 832 by 480 and 121 frames, and I will tell you for why. Given where we are at in AI, there is no easy way to blend all the video clips I will make together into a smooth run. There will be issues. As such, time becomes more important than quality. Remember my guideline, time plus energy versus quality, and that sacrifices must be made. Well, when we have to pick a fight with AI, it's best not to pick a fight. We are guaranteed to lose. I will discuss this further in my shot management and project management video, but starting on this project, it has 1 hour of story. Will I finish it? I doubt it. But will I come back to it in a future time with improved AI and finish it? Absolutely. So try to think smart, spend less time on lower resolution now, bump it all up later, will be the way. Because AI will only get faster, better, and more successful at doing exactly that in the future. So for now, I work to my limitations and that of AI. In this instance, it makes sense to go with 832 Kives 080, and each of these runs took about 10 minutes on my 3060. Looking quickly again at my shot management system, and in the top left corner you can see a drop down where I choose the project I am working on. This enables me to archive off this project anytime I want, and then load it back up later and carry on where I left off. That is why I wrote this software. But getting back to the Skyreels FFLF workflow, let's talk about the model next. What you see here is the Skyreels V2 i2 V720p FP8 E5N2 scaled model. I tried using a GGUF version in the native of this and I could not even get it to run, so I am very much going to be testing FP8 E5N2 scaled models moving forward. And if you are on a 3060, I suggest you do too. If you are on other machines, then find the best equivalent FP8, but make sure it is scaled. That is important. Some of you asked free to give model download links in the workflows. I could have supposed. Half the time, I don't know where I found it, but they are always on Hugging Face. And my focus here is to share with you the methodology, and I trust you to do your research and change models to whatever suits you. My aim is to enable you to make short films. The tech stuff, I don't really feel qualified to suggest. All I show here is what I gleaned from others, and as you might have noticed, I change it all the time. So try your models in it, and if it works better, let me know. But back to the model loader section, and I am probably wasting my time using a 720p while running the workflow at 480p, but whatever. I also have the Litex 2V in there, and that also is just because I won't be using all the fancy LoRa's here because I need every clip to blend with a clip before and after in the sequence, and I am not sure of the impact of throwing in dozens of LoRa's, so I stick to the speed-ups only. Litex 2V was lying around, so I used it. There is no greater reason than that. Looking at the VAE, and I tend to use the BF16. Some kind users suggested people are seeing better results with a rank 256 VAE decoder, and it is something to look at. But as I mentioned Bravefly before, this is a low resolution run because I'm counting on two things. One, upscaling with a detailer later, if that doesn't work, then coming back at a future time with something that does. 3, I didn't mention 3, but 3 is renting big bastard GPU servers for a final polishing while scaling detailer boost on every clip that needs it. And I will discuss this idea later, I only just recently thought about it. And bloody hell, where does the time go? What else do I need to mention about this workflow? Oh yes! So we have the two shots, the start and end shot for this zoom sequence over the pine forest. And it should be simple enough, especially for Skyreels FFLF. And here is our prompt to drive it, and here is our result. Not at all what I had in mind. And this is where things got a bit hectic for a while as I tried to resolve the problem. I will share some of that pain, because as always, from pain came some gain, but of course at a price. Possibly my sanity. But arguably that ship already sailed. I'll tell you one problem right now. I own the Anna Banana to make this shot of the pine trees from another shot, where I masked out the village and told it to fill in the pine trees. The problem with doing that was the AI then recognized the tree position of most of the trees as being the same as their position in the last frame, so it is actually doing the sensible thing. When I realized that, I thought I had it sorted, so I got Nano Banana to juggle all the trees about. But that didn't work either, so after a few goes I did a very cunning thing. Or it would have been if it worked. I went to a different workflow and I contrived a method to insert some keyframes. And I'll briefly talk about this workflow in a moment. But look at this setup, because you can in fact insert a keyframe into a FFLF workflow, and this is how VACE allows it. In the screenshot, I am trying it on a shot where I tried to get the village coming from the horizon line, but in the end I had to give it on it because this didn't work either, but it should. So I will leave this out for a moment for you to look at. I will be studying this approach further, as keyframing could be very useful. If I get it working properly, I'll do a video on it. But let me see if I can find the result from this example. Hang on. For some reason I can't find it because I have so many shots, but I found this one which also used keyframe and might actually even be the one, but it misbehaved in a similar lay, as you can see, so keyframing didn't go as planned either. But let's quickly talk about this workflow, because this is a Phantom FFLF workflow. Yes, I got it working finally, sort of. It is the workflow I already shared for 1.2.2 and VACE 2.2 with FP8 models FFLF, first frame, last frame. And other than the keyframe jiggery pokery I showed you just now, all I did was put a Phantom FP8 model in place of the low noise 1.2.2 model and ran it. That was it. Now if you recall, I love Phantom a lot, but for some reason, other than in my 3-character workflow that I showed way back at the beginning of this video adventure, other than that, I have not got Phantom working at all. It always makes a distillated mess, but this time It didn't, mostly because the high noise 1 2.2 modelists make the initial structure, and it then takes over. But it did work for keyframe attempt, but that brings us neatly to the next part of this video, which is what did work. Sort of. Before I move, look at that video clip again, because Phantom is a great workflow model, and I wanted to use it here more than Skyreels. This was 8:84 by 480 by 121 frames, and also at 24 frames per second. But the quality is good. So I will come back to this workflow at some point. And we are already at 10 minutes. And I haven't even talked about the solution or the other model. So much to say about all of this. So the solution was Uni3C, if you remember. That is designed for driving camera motion, and I haven't used it much. So I thought I would give it a go. And I went to this website and made this with the spline editor. I think he made it for driving VACE more than Uni3C, and I located him to ask it. He hasn't replied yet. So the output of that I had to convert to MPP and then put that into a workflow I made specially for Skyreels to use Uni3C. That is here, and I will share it. This is an I2V workflow that is image to video, and I was using this because I needed to get that damn village onto the horizon, and even using shots where Nano Banana did it, for some reason nothing I did with FFLF would work. So I figured drive it with the camera from a single image backwards and reverse that. But whatever the hell I got wasn't what I thought I would get. So this motion ended up creating this result, but I really kind of liked it. And like now, I was running out of time I was willing to give it. So park it, lock it, and let's go. And I did. But that's in the end of it. And the thing I did next was really the biggest deal in this video. I went looking for solutions to the problem I faced next, which was blending all the clips together in a way that would work. I then downloaded a monster, a Skyreels DF model. DF stands for, Christ, I don't even know. Diffusion maybe, but I downloaded it and later found the workflow was in the Keyframes examples workflow all along, but that didn't matter. I'd found it and was mucking about with it, and yes, I will share it too. And what this thing did was interesting, and I only just started mucking about with it and seeing how best to work with it. I don't think it will be good for much, but it helped here with my pine trees. I was now into extending videos because FFLF wasn't giving me the results I needed. So how this Skyreels DF extending shot workflow works is to use the last 17 frames of a video and run with it to make 97 more frames, and then take the last 17 frames of that and make another 97 frames. The problems of this are well known, and I had heard about them but never worked on extending frames to know, so this was virgin ground for me too. And this is what I got. I ran it for 4 clips, and they came out like this. My hope was that I could overlay them in Shotcut or DaVinci later, and it would be enough to blend them using those 17 common frames. Of course that was dreaming, but it was worth a punt. And cutting to the chase, this is what I ended up with.
It's not too bad, and it is all at 832 by 480 in some frames at 24 frames per second. But for the Pine Forest flyover, it kind of works okay.
And to get a feel for how my first minute of footage will come together, I took it to DaVinci Resolve and tweaked it a bit to try to make it all blend or fit. And there is a lot wrong with it. But it now gives me an idea as I can lay the narration over the top and get a feel for how that will roll. I hate it. The crow needs to move properly, and it did, so I blended it. And blending transitions looks tacky, then the changes between sections don't really work and don't line up properly, and the whole thing is a bit jarring and not very moody like I'd hoped. But this is the game and the nature of the game, and creativity does just happen. It isn't organic, that is a myth. It takes a lot of work to make things look sleek and slick and streamlined. So this is version 1, and it gets my Highwayman project underway for better or for worse. And I will next have to look at ways to upscale or detail some of these sections. I will also have to think about how to extend shots. It might be we have to wait for better solutions. As I said earlier, WAN 2.5 is allegedly being released, and a number of interesting models seem to be in the pipeline. But I don't like to wait around on models as it leads to disappointment. I thought I would share where I got to so far, and I will now take this and look at ways to improve on the result.